Hi, thanks for coming. I am used to having to turn cartwheels to get people to my talks because people see documentation and they go, oh my God. So if you're here because your boss said you had to come to a documentation talk, thank you. I hope you will accidentally enjoy yourself. Otherwise, hopefully the bribery worked. So I understand it's the last session. I understand we're all tired and we want to go home. I do too, I get that. I brought chocolate. If you fall asleep, I promise to throw a Lindor ball at your head. I knew that would happen somehow. So very quickly, I want to spend 5 or 10 minutes just talking, just sort of giving you a bit of a brief before we get to the fun stuff. So I'm sorry, you do have to sit through the boring bit. First of all, I just want to talk about why I've called this an unexpected journey through Agile documentation. And partly it's just because I'm a nerd and Tolkien's cool. But partly also because an unexpected journey through Agile documentation is exactly what I have been doing over the past few years. This is me a few years ago. I don't often put up pictures of myself. I don't tend to like photos of me, but I'll run with it for now. This is me giving a talk in Cincinnati at the Open Help Conference, which is a giant nerd conference for documentation people who document stuff in open source. And there's not a lot of us. So when I say giant, it's kind of like 10 people in a room. So when I gave this talk, and many talks before it, welcome, hi. I was doing talks about documentation. It was a very waterfall-based method. And it's very simple to write a book, right? You sit down and you start at the beginning and you keep on writing till you run out of things to say. So it has a beginning and it has a middle and it has an end. Waterfall documentation and waterfall development models are very, very simple at their basics. So you start at the top, you do the first thing, your planning or whatever, and then that gives you the inputs to start the next thing. And so you sort of pop out at the end with some kind of a product. However, the reason why waterfall works for documentation is because we have this book paradigm. Even though very little documentation these days is actually printed on bits of dead tree, we still have this idea of what a book is. It still has a beginning and an end. It still has concept material in the beginning. It has reference material at the end. It still has a contents page. Sometimes it has an index. And even though we've sort of made some of these things a bit more technology, they're still very much like this original book paradigm. And that's what made it really hard when Agile stuff started coming in. And I started working with a development team that was using Agile development, and I was still very focused. Like I said, I'd spoken at conferences for years about waterfall documentation methods, and I was still very, very focused on this waterfall method. And it was really hard for me to start breaking this idea of a book. Hi, come in, sit down. So Agile development, so I want to start with just a quick definition of what I talk about. When I say the term Agile development, I'm using a very, very broad term. I'm talking about any kind of development for software, hardware, anything you're making, as long as you're doing it in iterations. So if you've got 3, 4, 5, even a 2-week sprint or a longer sprint, if you've got something at the end of that sprint that could, at least hypothetically be released, then that is an Agile system in the sense that I'm using it. So here I'm talking about Agile documentation as opposed to Agile development. And it was really, really hard for me to start getting into Agile documentation. Quite simply, Agile documentation should not even be a thing. It shouldn't work this way. Books are very linear. And it was really very difficult for me to sort of get away from this linear thing and to break this paradigm. And around about the same time I was trying to work out this stuff, so I have to tell you a story about the very first Agile project I tried to document. And when you do, my first Agile project, and I sort of came to the conclusion that there are 2 ways that you can document in a traditional manner for an Agile project. You can either decide that you know what developers are actually going to do in the future, and you can sit down and start making some stuff up. Or you can wait till the developer actually does those things and then do all your research and get it written and review it and make sure it's right. And you'll probably end up delivering a beautiful book, but it will probably also be 3 months late. So there didn't seem to be a good opportunity. And at the time, topic-based authoring was a big buzzword in the technical communication industry. And so we were talking a lot about topic-based authoring. And in the end, that ended up, and the reason I've got the pictures of the padlocks here, other than the fact that they're kind of cute, is because this really ended up being the key to unlock the Agile development problem for me. So what I want to do is run through a really, really quick introduction to topic-based authoring, And then we're going to get into the fun stuff. Okay, so topic-based authoring. Topic-based authoring is about the idea of bringing this information, rather than having lengthy prose-style information, we break it down into nice manageable chunks. And so every piece of information, so this isn't talking about chapters, this isn't talking about sections, it's talking about paragraphs at the absolute most, sometimes sentences. Every single piece of information you write down on a page needs to answer one of these 3 questions. So the 3 questions are: what is it, how do I do it, and what else do I need to know? So what is it? This is what we call a concept. Perfect example, penguin is a flightless bird. So this is answering the question, what is it? What the hell is this thing? Why do I want it? So how do I do it? This is a task. This is quite often a set of steps. It's my example here is that it's an action. Okay, this is something that the user has to do. And finally, what else do I need to know? This is a piece of reference information. Quite often this is a table. Tables are used a lot in reference information, and a really good example is the error codes. If you've got a list of error codes for your program, stick it in a table, we'll pop it in the end, and this is reference information. So everything has to follow one of these 3 things. So this bit is very important. I want you to try and remember this bit, because I'm going to keep on talking about this quite a lot. Okay, so how this works. What I want you to do now is pull out your devices. A laptop or a tablet is best. A phone is okay if you've got that. If you can type on it though, that is best. So a tablet or a laptop is absolutely perfect. This URL will take you to a Google Docs page which I've created, and I'll bring that up live so we can watch our document taking place. We're going to run 3 10-minute sprints. Hopefully this works. If we only get 2 in, that's fine. We're going to do a code review at the end of each sprint. So when I say code, I put it in inverted commas because it's not really code. Obviously, it's actually bits of Lego. So, we're also going to do continuous integration of the documentation. So anyone who's been in an OpenStack talk this week has probably heard the term continuous integration by now. In terms of documentation, this is about we're going to continue putting this in, we're going to continue integrating every single word. We're not going to stop and go through a review process or anything like that. Every single time you change something that's already there, all you need to do is think, is this better than what was there before? Okay, so I need a development team. Who would like to be on my Lego development team? I need about 3 of you. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Come down here. So my development team have a design spec. The design spec is to build a vehicle for penguins to move their eggs around. It needs to be fully enclosed because it's cold in Antarctica. It needs to be a uniform cover for camouflage. And I was going to make a gag about polar bears, but my daughter is really geeky into this kind of stuff, and she would absolutely give me a hard time about the fact there are no polar bears in the same place as there are penguins. So it must fit at least 3 penguins and their eggs. It must be all-terrain because there's no roads in Antarctica, and we really don't want to kill any penguins in the making. So documentation team, that's you guys with all your devices open. I want you to describe what it does, not just what it looks like. It's very, very easy to look at a Lego creation. Oh yes, it's a small Lego creation. That's not exactly what we're looking for. We want to know how your users will be approaching this product. So users are the penguins, remember. We want the penguins to walk out, and the first thing they're going to do is go, oh, where do I put my egg, right? Think about how your users are approaching this problem. It's okay to make stuff up. It's okay to make stuff up in this scenario, obviously, because the whole thing we're making up. But it's also okay to make this stuff up in real life, because quite frankly, if you don't have information on a page and you ask someone if that's right, they'll go, If you have the wrong stuff on that page, they will tell you, and they will tell you fast. And they will tell you in great detail, and it's the best way to get information out of developers. And so, concept, task, reference. I did say that was important, and I'm going to say it again. Concept, task, reference. Everything needs to fit into one of those 3 topics. So, here's the URL again. I'm going to open that up too. Oh my goodness, are you accidentally enjoying yourself? Oh, sorry. I just realised I forgot something. The link, the bit.ly is there. I hope you can read it there. Thank you. I appreciate this. I love doing this. I really do.
We need 6 chocolate eggs.
6 chocolate eggs. Of course you do.
Did your change make it better? Whoever made that comment stands.
Oh, hold on, we need to have a blue one.
Yeah, make it 9. That's
Just in case.
There you go. There you go. Okay. So I would like to start my timer. So we've got 10-minute sprints. So we're off. So do you remember your design spec, or do you want me to flick back a little bit? Let me flick back briefly. So it's a vehicle for daddy penguins to move their eggs, must be fully enclosed, it must be a uniform colour, it must fit at least...
all angles, or just from the top? Or...
I think as long as it's a uniform colour from outside. It must fit at least 3 penguins in their eggs, it must be all-terrain, and please don't kill any penguins in the making. Remember, of course, this is a design spec too, so we're talking from a customer perspective. There are things that they're going to rate higher on this list than other things, and that's a decision that the development team are going to have to make as they go along. They might not be able to meet all this criteria. Okay, so let's get into documentation. What have we got already? Because you guys look like you've gotten a lot busier than previous groups I've done this with. So, in the first sprint, what we want to do is focus on the concepts, because the concepts are the easiest thing, and they're the thing we can actually do at the moment, because we can base it on the design spec. We've got the same information as the development team right now. So we don't know what they're working on. They're working away in their basement, wherever they are, and they're doing their own thing. We need to try and actually predict what's going to go on in this first sprint at this point. So a lot of this will be information gathering, be working from design documents and things that previously existed, working from plans, and hopefully actually talking to engineers in the hallways and that kind of stuff as well. Now with your concepts, please make sure you're using full sentences. It's really important. So Lindor balls is not a concept, it's a thing. It doesn't answer the question, what is it, right? So what we need to say is, this is a vehicle that will carry Lindor balls, or something like that. So we'll actually try and make these actual sentences if we can.
This is just fantastic. I've never done this.
I love Google Docs.
I keep telling people about Google Docs, interactive people around the world, blah, blah, blah. But this just blows your mind. This is much better.
I actually keep all the docs that are written just for my own personal amusement, because every so often I like to go back and read them.
Is this actually something you would do on the job?
Yes, this is absolutely something we would do on the job. Obviously, in most cases, we're working in XML or something like that. There would probably be a CMS behind it. I am trying to keep this talk as technology agnostic as I possibly can. Yes?
This is amazing. I've seen this in my committee. We run our committee meetings using Etherpad Lite, and the person who's normally the person writing minutes does their thing. But they're bashing away as fast as they can, so the typing's crap. Other people with their laptops are watching what's going on.
And fixing.
it
Yes.
as well.
Yes, the live editing is absolutely amazing. And yes, Etherpads and Google Docs and all these live editing tools that we've got are absolutely essential to these kinds of projects, especially in the very early stages. My tablet keeps dying, so I can't see the time. Okay, so we're about halfway through our first sprint. So definitely keep on coming on with these concepts and come back to your design spec. So remember we had things about camouflage and we had things about being protected from... we had things about warmth, we had the all-terrain tyres, we had things about being protected from predators. So make sure you put some stuff like that in there. Yes, eggs are fragile. That's good. That's really good background information. That's something that the user absolutely needs to know before they get in there. Admittedly, they might know it themselves, but for the sake of the argument.
I'm curious that you're in a situation where several people would be writing documentation on the same subject at the same time.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting part of topic-based authoring. Quite a lot of the time, topics do get written as simultaneous, and it's really important when you go to write a topic, especially if it's a new one, that you go and search the database and make sure that someone hasn't written it before you. This has become an interesting situation in places where I've worked previously, and the actual CMS that handles the topics, it's really important that we can really search that and be very active with things like metadata. So what we do is attach metadata to topics so that we understand what the product is, what version it is, whether it's what audience is reading it. So if there's a difference between developers and sysadmins and end users, we can add metadata to topics to indicate that, so that when you go search through, you can then pick out the topics that are important to you. Similarly, when you're building the book, what you can then do, because you've got the topics, okay, then you're not actually sitting down and writing this book from scratch. What you do then is you take your metadata again. You go, I want to see all the installation information for this particular product, version 2. You can then get your CMS to spit out those topics, and you can arrange them into a reasonably logical order. And we can actually have robots put it into order for us as well. Because we know that most chapters should have the order of concept, task, reference, we can actually we can tell the robots to put that together for us in that correct order. So we can see the concept, followed by the related tasks, followed by the related reference information. All the writers have to do is write their topics. The audience for this document is the penguins.
End users?
And the end users, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know how localization works, to be honest. I don't speak Penguin fluently. My daughter is a massive Penguin fan, though, so possibly she'd be able to help us out. We could bring in some external help to help us translate this. Please remember, we've got a lot of background information, but we don't have a lot of... Oh, something died. Oh. You now know what I call my laptop.
So you don't want to know.
I'm a Big Bang Theory fan. Go Team Leonard. So make sure we've actually got concepts. We haven't talked much about the vehicle itself at this point. So I think we can probably make some reasonable assumptions about what colour the thing might be. We could probably make some reasonable assumptions. I don't think we've mentioned anything about the all-terrain tyres at this point. Oh, we have. My apologies. It is there. Wow, you guys are so prolific. It's amazing. I wish I was this prolific. It would take me days to write that much. that probably has something to do with the fact that I research things.
Does that mean you're now going to have a Google Doc and have like an army of 10 people that write all your...
Absolutely. I reckon this is a great idea. I'm onto it. I have a new documentation idea. I do normally mention this, that the numbers are slightly skewed in this example. We don't tend to have this kind of ratio.
It should be the other way. We should all be sitting around there, and we should be...
No, you guys should all be sitting around arguing about what colour the thing's going to be, while the documentation people get on with the job. So is that how it works? Okay, I think our sprint is just about up.
This is a requirements spec, not a documentation.
Yes, but it will begin as a requirement spec. So the comment was that it's a requirement spec, not a piece of documentation. That's absolutely correct, because that's the only information we've got to work on. We don't have anything other than requirements at this point to talk about. So we've got to base our ideas on requirements. So remember, it's fun. Thank you. I thank you. I appreciate that. So yes, absolutely. But remember, it's okay to make assumptions. Start writing about what this thing might be, because we can iterate over this. Remember that whatever we write, any assumptions we make now, once we've seen our code review from our developers at the end of the sprint, we can then go back and fix it. So remember what I said, it's okay to make stuff up. It's okay to write fiction. The first draft of any technical manual is always mostly fiction. I am very, very good at doing things like, and this thing will have this feature where it does this stuff, and then you just put a big fix me, go ask the developer. So you do come back and I actually would argue that the terrain types are reference information. So whoever's writing that piece, I would actually cut and paste it further down into the reference section. The terrain types. And the trick here is because you've got bullets. It's very easy to pick out reference information. Yes, up the back. So the three things that every topic must be are concept, task, and reference. So concept answers what is it? Task answers what does it do? Reference answers what else do I need to know? I like the use of the question marks here. That's very useful. So generally in tech writing world, we use the term fix me, all in caps. The question marks will work as long as you're standardising and all your writers are using the same thing, so you know to grep through it and find them before you do it. Yes?
That's what I really like about Sphinx, because they actually have a to-do item.
Yes.
So you see all of that at the end on one page, and you can very easily go through all
Absolutely. So the point was that the Sphinx development tool actually has a to-do thing. So when you go through the end, you see the list of all the to-do items. I've used systems in the past where you can turn fix me's on or off, and if you turn them on and then build your book, it actually comes up in bright highlighter yellow in the built book, so you realise it's there and you can bring it back out. Okay, that's the end of our sprint. I'm sorry?
No one has made a declaration. This is a vehicle for transporting penguins.
Yes, that would probably be a good thing to say. Okay, development team and sprint. Tools down. Can we please have a demonstration of what you have done so far? So we can see here, so it is a bit blurry, I'm sorry for the resolution, but if we can please have our Scrum Master, who's going to be our Scrum Master for this round? You can be Scrum Master? Yep, okay. If you could please do a demonstration on the camera for us, that would be great.
So this is the undercarriage, it's ready to go. That will bulk up underneath the vehicle here, which is not complete yet.
We chose grey as the colour.
Grey is the colour, so can somebody on my documentation team make a note of that for next sprint?
So yeah, the colours are not only grey, they're an Arctic camouflage scheme incorporating black and grey and
I should be micing you, shouldn't I?
As you can see, we are attempting to enclose the. Hang on, I just need to rotate it for the camera. We just need to. We're attempting to enclose the sides. This far side is nearly complete, and we're now proceeding for a demo now. We don't have the wheels attached now, so it's a bit hard to actually demonstrate mobility, but conceptually, we're on the right path.
Penguins are already in.
Yep. He might lie down that one, he's quite tired.
Yeah.
It's been a busy day.
So what are your plans for fully enclosing?
Well, this is part of the roof structure, yet to be fully finalised. We have a few more components here ready to go in, and yeah, something like that.
Excellent. And it's going to have all-terrain wheels, is that correct?
Yes, these wheels are fully certified all-terrain ones.
Best you can get.
Yep, we chose those over these piddly little ones because these are more all-terrainy.
Lovely.
Yep.
And have you killed any penguins so far?
No, although they have been declothed on account of the fact that they were a bit too big when they had their shawls on, so now they're...
Oops, there goes the penguin.
Their penguin eggs are delicious.
I think we killed a penguin.
All right, we overspec'd on penguins, so that's good.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to restart the timer for our next sprint. I think I've broken my microphone. No, keep going. Keep going. There are plenty of chocolates. Everyone seems to have stayed awake so far. I'm shocked.
Are you going to tell us what they're doing afterwards? Because we're sort of not getting anything.
Where did it
stop?
It's probably mostly like how software developers work anyway.
More or less in the dark.
It's like mushrooms, really.
Okay, so our second sprint has just started. And for the second sprint, so first of all, what we need to do is iterate over our concepts and ensure that we've gotten this information correct. So we've just had our code review. We understand a little bit more about the system now. We've got our eyeballs on it, and we've been able to have a chance to ask some questions of our developers. So you need to iterate over the topics you've already got, ensure those are correct, update them in any way you can and improve them, and also start working on our, wow, there's an awful lot of this. Also start working on our tasks. I like step 0. That's very good. So one thing I would say about this particular task is that it doesn't have a title yet. What's actually going on here? Who wrote that?
Anonymous.
You won't be anonymous if you want to chocolate.
So what we need to do is have a set of tasks. So each task will need to have a title. It needs to have a very specific thing that people are trying to do. So if you're trying to put an egg into the vehicle, then we'll need to have a set of tasks, presumably exactly for that. We'll also have probably another task, for getting in and out of the vehicle, for if it had a I don't know, if it had a missile system, you'd have to be able to arm the missiles or something like that. So, oh, we have that. Load eggs into the vehicle. Very good. Yeah, this is awesome stuff. Excellent. Excellent. So tasks are surprisingly difficult to write.
So, am I allowed to be reading the docker at this stage?
Yes, of course you can.
That says get up to 3 penguin eggs, which is sufficient.
Yes, we did say at least 3 penguins, didn't we? 3 penguins and their eggs. Yes.
What do you mean at least? Yeah.
At least.
No.
That's okay. You can make that. You can make that development decision. That is entirely up to you. Just keep trying. Who wrote that? So when I have done this talk previously, hurts when I hit you in the head with a chocolate.
It doesn't say that the eggs can't be smashed.
Yes, it does.
I am. So when I've done this talk previously, I've run with an entire Hobbit theme. This is the first time I've decided to get the penguins into it, and so it lends itself to amazing hilarity. And I'm really, really happy, actually, that the penguin thing has gone the same way. So this is very awesome. I love it when I try something new and it actually works. I have done whole presentations just on writing processes. Writing processes is really, really hard. And it feels like it should be easy, right? Because we see processes all the time. And I mean, every single badly translated manual that you get for every single cheap little bit of crap that you buy has steps in it. And it should be easy. It seems really logical. Sometimes, especially with very highly technical things, it can actually be really difficult to work out where one step ends and the next step begins. And things like if you click a button and a box pops up, is the button click and the box popping up 2 separate steps, or is it one? Ideally, you should always keep a reaction in with the action. But sometimes that can actually mean your steps get really, really long. Sometimes you can find that you get to step 4 of a process and you've got all these sub-steps. Sometimes you can find you can get to step 4 or 5 and all of a sudden you're branching out into 2 possible different things that could be going on. So processes are really, really difficult to write. There are logical differences between processes and procedures as well. So you can... Oh, I love this. It's a Google car. Who wrote about driving the vehicle without hands? Who's Anonymous Turtle?
Penguins don't have hands.
No, they don't. They have wings. I've forgotten where I was going now. I completely lost my train of thought. So processes and procedures are really, really hard to write. And it's really easy to do silly things like bring in anthropomorphization and that kind of thing. Computers think, apparently. According to every single process I have ever read, computers think. And they don't. They might process stuff. You might give them some information and they take a while. But the computers don't think. And those kinds of things come up again and again. You can end up very easily... parallelism is my favourite word, and anyone who's come to any of my talks will have heard that one from me before. And it's really easy. All of a sudden you could change tense halfway through. Your sentence structure changes. And so processes and procedures are actually remarkably difficult. And if you're interested in this, I highly recommend you seeking out one of my procedure talks, which I do fairly regularly. And I think there's 1 or 2 on the internet floating around as well. I don't even know where to go. Who wrote about the legless penguins? I'm sorry. My aim's bad. I've got another whole box here yet, so keep going, guys. Is Antarctica bumpy? I believe Antarctica would be very bumpy. Who wrote that? Own up. Okay, fair call from someone who's been there. Who wrote Is Antarctica bumpy? No one's going to own up to that one. Oh, we've got genetically engineered penguins too. Should I be scrolling? Is there more to this that I'm missing? Okay, so we're driving vehicles to destinations. I would argue that this isn't a procedure at this point. This is actually an admonition. So an admonition is a call out, that might be a more familiar term. So it's a note or a warning or something like that. The text will be offset. Sometimes it's a different colour, sometimes it has a little exclamation mark and a yellow triangle or something like that. So an admonition, generally, your notes are things like, they're the gotchas. They're the things that you might not have noticed or that, might be a little bit tricky. And that's where bugs, not features, get documented as well. So if you've got a situation where something might be slightly buggy, but we're not going to actually tell you it's a bug, that generally ends up in a note or a warning. So warnings are really, this is where data loss could happen. These are the most critical things. If there's a potential for losing data, you put it in a warning, and that is it. Never use a warning for anything else. Always put everything else in notes and importance. Yes?
I can see the value of writing perhaps even random statements to provoke the development team into saying yes or no about something, but that would only be useful if management told the development team they will read this stuff and give feedback.
Yeah, So the point is, I mentioned earlier about writing something that may be incorrect in order to provoke a response from your development team. And the comment was that that's only works if your management is actually instructing the developers to do so. Who wrote forcibly inserted? I'm not going to give you a chocolate. Because that is terrible phrasing.
Mine was the conduct violation. I didn't do the forcibly.
No, it's the lady behind you. Sorry. I'm calling you out individually now. Please turn that into plain English for me and I will give you a chocolate. Maybe it's time for me to have a rant about plain English. So, it's really, really easy, and especially, everyone in the room been to university? Been to university or college? Some kind of tertiary education?
Does this count?
Yeah, okay, let's go. Okay, so most of you have been to some kind of tertiary education of some description. And it's really, really easy when you're at uni to learn how to write in this amazingly wordy kind of way. And that's because we're writing up to word limits. I don't know about you, but when I used to get my assignments in uni, I'd go, 5,000 words. And I'd go home and start typing madly because I'd get 5,000 words. And then you'd watch the word count at the bottom, and as you got closer, eventually then you'd stop. And you'd go back, and occasionally, if you're a bit short, you'd sort of split them out a little and added a few more words into your sentence. Yes?
Engineering word limits, the other way around, they're maximums.
Oh, engineering word limits are apparently maximum. You can tell I didn't do an Eng degree, huh? Okay, who wrote the admonition?
That would be me.
That was a distinct ploy to get a chocolate, wasn't it?
It worked.
Who wrote about being punny? No one's admitting to being punny? No? Fine.
People who've got remotely doing stuff.
It could be people doing it remotely too. I absolutely. In which case, if you're doing it remotely, you don't get a chocolate. So, sorry. So I was talking about plain English. So yeah, in university we write up to these word limits. In tech writing, with every single edit pass that you do through your document, you should get 20% shorter. And so of course the obvious gag is you do 5 edit passes and you run out of document. We've run to the end of our sprint. Okay, end of sprint. How are we going for time? What, 10 minutes? Okay, tools down.
Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Who's our Scrum Master? Sorry, I actually ran this through my shirt and that turned out to be a bad idea.
Well, you just have to come closer.
Have to lean over.
Do you want to come around over here?
We've got a code of conduct violation going on here.
Good look.
Video capture that?
So we were lucky enough to have a couple of experts on penguin vehicle design with us, and we managed to get a lot of insights on how other cultures are doing it as well. And so now what we have here is actually pretty much the prototype in beta vehicle. You can see the 3 penguins seated snug with their eggs. It's warm and nice in there. There's a little bit of ventilation going on. We have UV shielding and power generation. And because...
You're all making notes of this, right?
And because of the cooperation with the international group of experts that we had, we have been able to probably, it's as good as a promise, but don't hold my word for it right now, been able to increase the maximum speed that this can go at to 1.2 meters per hour.
Wow. Okay, is there any other questions we need to ask our development team before we quick? Did we decide we had 10 minutes left? 10? Excellent.
How many budget points are we allocating to this?
I was going to try not to go into that whole section of Agile.
One laptop per child budget, all right?
Yes, very, very little.
How's the vehicle? Solar.
It's solar power.
Solar.
Also
But how do you-
gravity power.
Gravity and solar, if you didn't get that. So what I might do is actually, we'll just have I'll slightly shorten the sprint. We might have an 8-minute sprint so we can finish in time. So for the third sprint, what I would like you to focus on, considering we already have quite a lot of concepts and tasks, I'd like you to focus on polishing and ensuring that things are correct.
What do you do with nodes? You know, when you've got nodes that you want to... So, travels up to 1.2... Hey, where did it go? Travels up to 1.2 meters per hour as a feature.
Yes.
Concept.
Yes, that's a concept.
And then I put a little disclaimer up the top there. I'm aiming to put a little note down the bottom of it. But where do I actually place it? There it is, under features. See how it's got a little box next to it?
Yes. Okay, so there's several ways you can do this. If you were doing something like a release note or something like that, a series of dot points can work really well. I personally try to avoid them. Usually if you're in the concept part of a document, you've got a fairly lengthy document, you can actually devote a paragraph or so to each feature. So in the real world, not in this situation obviously, I would probably actually go through and research enough about that and actually, if you can work it in, almost do like a use case. So if you were in this particular development environment or whatever, then this particular feature can help you out in this particular way. I might also add at this point I have a marketing degree. So it really is a marketing thing. A lot of the concept information, and even in very technical documents, are often read by CTOs and CFOs. And I refer to them as our forgotten audiences. We tend to talk about our audiences, especially with highly technical documentation, about being our technical audiences. They're our sysadmins and they're our developers. But there is also this unspoken audience that tend to read technical documents as well. And they're the people who are making the financial decisions. They're the senior management types who are trying to work out if they're going to invest in this product, they're going to install this particular thing, and if they're actually going to spend their budget on it. So it's really important to make sure that there is a little bit in there for them too, and you're presenting your product in a very positive light. Obviously, you don't want to go into a whole heap of marketing spin because that's just going to turn people off, but it's really important that you use very simple, very plain, I shouldn't say simple, very plain language, and that you're promoting the features of it in a very concise and easy to consume way. And that's for those hidden audience members. How are we going? I've got more chocolates left. I should be handing out more chocolates. Do you need more chocolates, development team?
Yes.
The development team needs to be powered further for chocolate. The mummy penguins are off getting food and the daddy penguins look after the eggs. I know this because I have a 10-year-old daughter. So how are we going with our polishing? Oh, flux capacity. Who wrote about flux capacity? Thank you, Mr. Davies. The flux, ideally, actually, so it's entirely possible that we could do it. We could do a request for feature at this point. Requests for features do come from documentation teams. And but also the other interesting part about it is not just requests for features, but bugs. Documentation teams pick up heaps of bugs, and this is why it's really good to keep your documentation team on side. Like, in other words, feed us more chocolate, right? It's because as we're going through stuff, we're testing things, we're actually clicking all those buttons, and we're acting like a noob user, because half the time that's exactly what we are. then we're actually finding all those things that aren't working quite as expected. And it's not necessarily if you click a box that something fails to happen. It's that it might click a box and do something unexpected. It might be the way you designed it, but it might be unexpected from a user perspective. Yes?
We're done before deadline.
My goodness. Can I have a round of applause for the development team, please?
First project ever that comes in before time.
Exactly. Came in before time, under budget, and we spent we might have overspent a little on the chocolate.
Yeah.
So.
How many penguin casualties was that?
0.
0 penguin casualties. Nice work. Well done.
How many penguins are actually in the vehicle?
That's a secret.
1.21.
1.21, that's it. Excellent. So I think at this point we can probably wrap it up. We've only got a couple of minutes left. If there are any other questions from the audience that I haven't addressed yet, I'm more than happy to do so. I've got more chocolate too, so feel free to grab one on your way out. Yes?
I asked you if this would actually be happening in the real world, and you said yes, but would it actually happen where anonymous people are contributing to the same document, or would they be talking to each other?
So the question is about would this happen with anonymous people? And I have to say more or less yes, that's what open source is all about. And open source documentation in particular. I interact with heaps and heaps of people in a very large distributed documentation team. And while I might have Twitter handles or bug sign-in names or something like that, I don't know these people. I have no idea what their background is. I haven't hired them. I don't know what their resume looks like. I don't know whether they're developers or writers or whether they've just decided that they've got something cool to say. So yes, absolutely, anonymous or more or less anonymous stuff does definitely happen.
Who reviews the documentation?
I'm sorry?
Who reviews the documentation?
So this is when it comes down to continuous integration. So I work on the OpenStack project a lot, and so we've got the Jenkins and Garret system, and so yeah, you get reviews through that way. So things do have to go through a gate.
Who reviews the document? Jenkins does not review your documentation. Who reviews it?
There's a core team. There's a core team that review.
So there is someone who says,
Yes,
we'll check
it's not an individual person. No, it's a team. Exactly in the same way that code is contributed to open source projects. Open source documentation does work more or less in exactly the same way. I love that you've continued. Okay, who wrote the sword?
This accompanying product with the 5 penguins, we didn't talk about it.
Oh, sorry, that was terrible.
Not part of the
Yeah.
original spec, if you don't mind.
Oh, God, I'm getting worse.
All the
Get worse.
Worser. I got worser. I don't know if I can get that far. Anyway, so thank you very much to my documentation team. I hope you've all enjoyed being a documentation team for an afternoon if you don't normally do this as your day job. I hope you learnt something. I hope you got something out of this and you can go back and tell your boss that yes, you went to that documentation talk and you got something out of it. If you do want more information, please feel free to contact me. I also want to very quickly do a little plug for myself. I am working on a book at the moment about Agile documentation. If you do have an Agile documentation story, I would love to hear from you. If you work in an Agile documentation, if you work in a documentation team that is doing Agile stuff badly or well, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to interview you and have a section on you in my book. So yeah, that's my plug. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming.